The scene of the death sentence, with the participation of the main character, who was accused of breaking into the reception in honor of the victory and tried to kill the crown prince with the help of the black mafia. In turn, the girl wanted to report that she tried to save people, but no matter how she shouted, no one believed her, but she answered with a sneer that she would not believe it either. His Majesty was very indignant because he gave the girl a lot of opportunities, but he did not see a drop of remorse in her and sentenced her to death by hanging so that no one else would dare to challenge the imperial family. The heroine was happy that this painful and miserable life would finally end at this moment. The appearance of Herzog Soleil caused quite a shock to the girl, whom she last saw badly wounded by the monster's horns, but was glad that he was not injured. The Duke cut the rope on which the girl was hanging, which angered the Emperor, but then he took out his sword and aimed at the heroine. She thanked him, saying that he was a good person, which embarrassed Herzog because he had no idea that she knew him. A blue flame appeared around the girl's body. It was everywhere and greatly frightened the Emperor's guards and the public, because of which the guards insisted on shelter. The heroine told the Duke that if he had been the person who took her from the shelter, her life would have been different, to which the Duke replied that he hoped that she felt at least a little calmer. After waking up, the girl looked around. She was shocked that she remained alive, but she was even more surprised by the fact that she was in the same basement as 9 years ago. Her memories were interrupted by Aunt Anna's shout from the shelter. She said that there was still a lot of work left and that the girl should not ignore her. Looking at her aunt, who looked exactly the same as 9 years ago, and at her small limbs, which definitely did not look like an adult's, she again felt the same disturbing feeling. Déjà vu. The aunt began to wipe the girl, and she began to understand with shock. Did she really come back on the same day? The aunt asked the girl to spread her hands, but the girl stopped her, reminding her that she had a lot of work to do, and other children also needed to be washed. The girl asked her aunt to give her a towel as soon as possible, and that she would dry herself and sit quietly. The aunt listened to her and gave her a towel, and insisted that she sit quietly. She remembered that the child who bathed after her in the queue had to fall, and when it really happened, she had no doubt that she had really returned 9 years ago to the very beginning. She was saddened by the fact that she had to go through this hellish life and miserable end again. She couldn't believe it and thought it was impossible, but she understood that it might be her chance. To begin with, she decided that she must escape from the asylum at any cost, because that is the only way she will be able to escape from the same person. Rafia Grenier is the only survivor of the Grenier clan, a special child who possessed spiritual power that few in the clan can use, and it was she. The Grenier clan, which possessed special powers, was used for a long time in the interests of influential people, and their end was always tragic. In order to prevent a number of evil events, they hid in a shelter in the most rocky gorge of the Magente continent, built a village there, and lived peacefully, but it did not last long. A terrible calamity happened in the forest. There were flames everywhere as a result. It happened. It was not a natural forest fire that was the end of the name of their clan. The woman took Rafia by the hand, approached the elder, and asked if they should save this child, saying that they may not know, but they should entrust Rafia to the will of the Lord. The elder called the girl to him, but she was afraid. He emphasized that her power will soon show itself, but she should hide it and live quietly. But most importantly, she should never forget who she is. Rafia was intercepted by a man and brought to the others. They were disappointed that they only caught one little girl. They brought the girl to the same place that person spoke about, leaving the girl in the shelter. Their work was finished. The place where she was brought and where she was for a short time was a strange children's shelter, arranging children to work. They said that they were helping them to become independent, but in reality, they received colossal donations for this. Since the children were the shelter's source of income, they hired a large number of guards to watch the children. The girl knew that if she tried to escape recklessly, she would be caught again, and the supervision over her would be stricter. After considering all this, Rafia knew that she had only one chance. That person would come to take her today. She was waiting for him, and he appeared, called her name with a smile, and emphasized that he was glad to meet her. The man who was in the shelter took the girl outside, pointed to the carriage, and said that her new guardian was there, and she should always behave politely and do everything carefully. While they were signing the contract, Rafia broke free and ran. It would seem that this is freedom, but she turned into a dead end. There was nowhere to run. The guards caught up with her while they were considering whether to break her legs for running away. The heroine understood that she did not want to give up right now. Knowing that she is not yet mature enough to use spiritual power, she understood that she should at least try, and she succeeded. Rafia deprived the guards of movement with her power and then made them lose their minds and fall. After that, the girl fell to her knees. She was glad that she succeeded, although it was too much. Her body was so weak that she did not even have the strength to move. After the stranger's words that she has an impressive gift, the heroine was shocked by the fact that he was watching her all the time. However, the guy immediately calmed the girl down, saying that he was going to help her. It was the same voice that she wanted to hear. She immediately asked the stranger to take her to Saleya and not to take her to that man. However, the man decided that it was time to show his abilities. He forced her to say the words with which she killed the man. The stranger laughed and said that she had just used her power and began to fulfill her duty. She is a special child, and he counted on her in the future. Rafia woke up in an unfamiliar place. It confused her, but the boy noticed that he brought her to exactly the place she asked for. It was Saleya. She talked to Cassine over breakfast. Saleya she thanked for salvation. The boy was interested in why, before fainting, she asked him to take her to Saleya, because neither he nor his family had anything to do with it. The heroine explained this by the fact that Yuri, who was a guardian in a past life, was not the only person. Several other people called each other by this name and used her for all kinds of evil deeds, although they harbored evil against the Duchy of Saleya, but they were afraid because Cassine Saleya was a threat to them, and she believed that only they could protect her. The girl asked very much to be left, and she will do everything. Herzog says the guy was surprised what she could do with such a small body. For that, she asked to wait a little, at least 3 years, and she can do anything. The Duke was interested in what she would be able to do after 3 years, to which the girl replied that she would be able to kill all the people whom the boy hates. He wondered how, and the girl replied that when the time comes, she will be able to do everything. He liked Rafia's confidence, which is why he allowed her to stay. Besides, he had a suitable role for her. It was the role of his wife. The girl was shocked by such a proposal because she did not have an aristocratic status. He answered her that he would handle it himself, and that now there would only be a wedding, because according to the Imperial laws, it can only be done when one of them is of age, and give her a choice. The heroine emphasized that until she becomes old enough, or until she has the strength, she will serve him. And one day, she will definitely repay his kindness, to which he replied that she made the right choice and sent her away to rest. Rafia was in Saleya's mansion, and she felt as if she was in a dream. In a moment, the maid entered the room and asked if she was very hungry, to which the girl initially wanted to answer no, but hunger took its toll, and she agreed. Margaret Cersus is Saleya's senior maid. The girl was offered soup made from finely ground corn from the chef and white bread. She was happy because she liked the combination of sweet corn and soft white bread. The maid said that the master was worried about her because she slept continuously for 3 days, and although he is cold-blooded and impatient at the same time, he is not a terrible person who can take care of her. Rick Gunter, worried about the Duke, wanted to know the name in order to start a secret investigation. He tried to convey that some children are raised as mercenaries from an early age. However, the young Duke replied that he had carefully looked through everything himself, and the girl cannot look him in the eyes, and mercenaries are brought up in such a way that they cannot take their eyes off their prey, and even if she is hiding something, it will not bring him any harm, promising that he himself, everyone knows her. Having told him to change the schedule in the capital and find Josh, he already wanted to let him go. But he emphasized that when he would return to take the priest with him, although it might attract the attention of the Imperial family, he did not care. After learning that the priest would come the next day, the girl was quite frightened because he could learn about her abilities, and she emphasized that she did not want to meet him. The young Duke remembered that the doctor said that there was nothing wrong with the fact that she woke up only 3 days later, so he was not going to call the priest, but he was interested in why the girl reacted like that. He thought that maybe she had bad memories related to the temple or a priest. Remembering all the events, he thought maybe, because of all this, she asked to give her 3 years, as if she was constantly running from someone, after which he took her word that she would follow all the doctor's instructions. The young Duke told her that she is not a worker and should not call him sir, after which he handed her a guardianship contract. The girl was afraid that she would not be able to fulfill the role of an aristocrat, but he reassured her that he would not be her guardian. In the contract, the young Duke prescribed the security that she so wanted, and the education, knowledge, etc. that his wife should have, and whatever she studies, he will support her, and it will only be her achievement. Rafia thanked the young duke and asked what the term of their contract was, because this is not an ordinary situation, he answered, until she ceases to be useful, or until she has a loved one, but the girl said that she wants to live life without trivial feelings. The guardianship contract is kept at least until the age of majority. He held it out for signature, and realized that he still does not know her name and age. The heroine replied that her name is Rafia, and she is 10 years old. The young duke asked why she still hadn't signed, and he was very surprised because she couldn't read or write yet. Not at a loss, he took her hand and began to write her name. Rafia really liked how beautifully the young duke wrote, to which he promised that if she would practice, she would have her own beautiful handwriting. The girl promised that she would make every effort to learn. After signing the contract, young Duke was about to go to a meeting with his secretary Josh. While he was talking to her, a bunch of servants gathered in the hall, and they started discussing Rafia, that she is a child and generally crazy, so they decided to get rid of her. The girl felt superfluous, apologizing to the gentleman that she was unable to see him. The girl went to rest. Young Herzog Rick Gunter and Josh gathered at the meeting. They were shocked to see the contract, and began to say that it is unlikely that the child will be able to cope with this role, and whether it is worth investing so much money in it, because there is a probability that she will just sit on the spot. After listening to them, the young duke said that he needed a partner, so he would teach her everything possible, to which he was suggested that it would be better to adopt someone from the Duchy of Soleil. And when the child comes of age, arrange an arranged marriage. This did not suit him, because if he makes her a younger sister, he will not be able to marry her. The men were shocked by this information, because the girl did not have an aristocratic status, especially since she escaped from the shelter. Rafia stood near the window and looked at the raindrops behind him, until suddenly Margaret came up behind her and brought a blanket. The girl said that she liked the rain very much. The maid told the girl that in the capital it rains more often than it snows, but it turned out that the main character did not know what snow was, but she really liked the story about snow, and she already dreamed of seeing it, but the maid left her because she had things to do. Here we meet Neff and Nettie, children who were supposed to help Rafia take a bath, but the girl remembered the rumors about her and decided that she would take a bath herself, and she did not need help. The girls were puzzled by the words of the heroine that she did not need help because they overcame fierce competition, because it turns out that it was a great honor for everyone to help her. Rafia remembered the moment when she thought that everyone hated her, but the girls assured her that they did not express themselves correctly and meant that it was simply fantastic. Seizing the moment, the girls asked if they could bring her breakfast. The heroine agreed, which greatly pleased Neff and Nettie. They offered her to choose what she wanted, but realized that Rafia is not picky at all. The main character asked if she would ever be able to go outside. They told what they do on the street during the year and said that they would only be glad to spend time with her. Rafia found herself at the spirit gate opening the door. She saw the day when Yuri ordered her to kill a green-haired man in a white suit, but she no longer wanted to be his pawn. She woke up. In the morning, Margaret and Rafia went to the center to buy the girl a new outfit, but what a surprise it was for the girl that Herzog was traveling with them. Before leaving, the young duke held a conversation for Margaret that you can't say that she's bored. It's time to go so that she buys faster and doesn't leave her seat during the demonstration. And so that she wouldn't worry, he said that he had business in the center. That's why he was going with them. After this conversation, we returned to the carriage where the three heroes were heading to the center. Margaret answered the girl that the young duke was heading with them because he had his own business. But as it turned out, the boy had no business, because then he would have taken Josh with him, and he simply decided to go with them. But he was saddened by the fact that the woman was openly talking to him as if he were not an expected guest. So he decided to take a walk around the area and join them. Margaret told the girl why there is no one around now about the new year and the traditions of the Imperial family these days, thus telling her that life is raging on the streets these days, which is why the young duke came to the capital. Margaret asked what colors the girl liked, and without thinking for a long time, she answered that blue and yellow. That's how they got to the Madame Florence store. The woman looked at them and tried to assure them that they didn't have enough money to pay for at least something from their store. Margaret was indignant at these words, but Rafia calmed her down, saying that they still needed to choose at least some clothes. But in her mind, she was very afraid of tarnishing the name of the family Madame Florence, hoping that they would leave, said that she had a lot of work to do, and if they all, after all, they will choose something to call. At this time, young Herzog finished his business and joined them. The owner of the store was angry that they did not leave the store, but when she returned and saw him, she was very shocked. Herzog demanded an explanation. The young duke oppressed the woman. She began to apologize to him, but apologized to the wrong person. She also began to apologize to Rafia. The girl was not comfortable. He came up with a punishment for Madame, deciding that he would buy all the dresses and props of the store, including the dresses that were already reserved. She asked not to take at least them, but such was his punishment. By taking these dresses, he would lower her status in the nobility. He was very indignant that the woman had insulted the duke's family, so he threatened the woman that if she did not give the dresses herself, he would have to take them away. The girl asked what he was going to do with all the dresses. He replied that he would give them to her, but Rafia said that she did not want to wear any of the dresses made in this store, but she wanted to donate them to adults from the slums and children from shelters. Madame Florence was very indignant at this. She asked that her dresses be burned or cut to pieces, but not given to the poor, but the dresses were already paid for, and she could not dispose of them. The young duke added that he forbids her to mention the child. Rafia thanked him for the gift. Young duke emphasized to her that if someone ignores her, it means that they ignore him as well. It means that just in the store, with her confident manner of holding herself, she preserved his authority. After their conversation, they still decided to choose normal clothes for her after choosing a dress. The young duke asked why the girl did not want to add jewelry, to which he found out that she was ashamed that he spent so much on her and promised to return everything. The guy calmed her down, saying that it was a gift, and showed her a coat, which she immediately figured out how to improve. The girl was shocked. She was wearing such a beautiful outfit for the first time, so that she did not wear a raincoat on top. He picked up a hat for her. Returning back, Rafia decided to ask if no one had come to look for her. Because of the fact that she ran away, she was constantly worried. But the young duke reassured her because they had a strong guard, and since he took her hand, she became his, and now he will constantly protect her. Returning to Salea, they were met by Neff and Nettie with a gift for Rafia. Upon opening it, the girl realized that there was a book, but not an ordinary one, but a menu. The girls had been working on it since last night. If the face is smiling in the picture, then there was something in the food taste. At night, the young duke had training, but his sword broke. Rick distracted him by saying that Josh was looking for him, and he also brought him New Year's invitations. The three of them got together. The young duke emphasized that he was not going to go to the New Year's festival. The men tried to persuade him to stay there for at least one day, and when they realized that everything was useless, they decided to find out at least the reason for such a decision. He replied that he did not want to leave the girl because she was worried that she would be returned to the shelter, to which the men suggested that the lady would be in the mansion until the end of the New Year's festival. But she is neither a bird nor an animal, and how is it different from a shelter? The young duke decided to end the asylum, but since it was Imperial property, they decided to give a warning, but so that no one would notice them. Before leaving, the man entered the room where Rafia was sleeping, saying that he was watching her, so that she would not worry and do only what she wanted. Young Duke and Rick came to the shelter. They were surprised by the extraordinary silence. But they were even more surprised by the fact that the further they went, the stronger they felt the unbearable stench, so they decided to examine each room. Entering the first room, they were shocked by what they saw. There were a lot of corpses of people, but there were no corpses of children. But it was not the last room. But the most terrible thing was that, in addition to the smell of blood, they smelled another smell. After walking a little along the corridor, they understood that it was the smell of kerosene. Only one thing was clear. They needed to get out of there as soon as possible. Josh did not expect that they would return earlier, even decided that they had changed their minds, but he was told that someone raided the shelter before them, and when he and Rick got there, everyone was already dead, and now they were probably burning brightly. The men wondered who could do it, not knowing who the criminal was, but there was a high probability that it was arranged because of the search for Rafia. Since they do not know who took her, most likely they had time to send a warning to the shelter, turning it into such chaos. The young duke could not understand how those people could have known in advance that the person who took the child would be there today, or was it just a coincidence? Although even if he had not gone there, the shelter would still have burned down, and a couple dozen corpses would have been found inside. They believed that there were many enemies in the shelter, but if it was just revenge, then all the dead would have fatal wounds in the neck or heart. They were definitely looking for the girl, but if they knew where she was, they would have come here immediately. Divine power or exceptional talent. That's what interested them. That's why the young duke decided that they can't stay in the capital. He understood that a person who hunts a child is scary and evil, so he decided to discuss the plan in advance. The young duke went to the emperor, congratulated him on the new year, and gave him a gift. It was snow leopard fur, an extremely expensive and rare thing, which surprised the emperor. Why didn't he keep her for himself? The boy decided to lie to the emperor in order to let him go, and due to the fact that he aroused trust, he managed to do it. Neff and Nettie were disappointed by the departure of the lady. Instead, she thanked them for what they had done for her. The young duke watched this picture, after which he allowed the girls to go with them, and for them, it was a great honor. The man emphasized that no one should say anything extra, because no one should know about the existence of the lady, although she was already popular among the servants. Even the chef wanted to transfer with them to cook and give his whole heart while cooking for her. The young duke decided to use the moment and introduce the Rafia to the secretary Josh and to the deputy commander Rick, who has already become like an older brother to him. But when the girl saw him, she panicked. She began to apologize, but no one understood why. The young duke reassured the girl and offered to go to the room to rest, but the heroine refused and assured him that she was fine and they should go, because she believed that they had wasted a lot of time because of her. Rick was puzzled by the girl's reaction, but decided to ask Josh if he really looked so mean that he could bring a person to tears with just one look, to which he received confirmation. Margaret was worried that it was about to snow, and it would be difficult for the nights. The girl did not understand her worries because she thought that the snow was soft. The woman told her that when it snowed, the road would be slippery, so it would be more difficult than on other days. Rafia felt strange. Margaret thought that she was cold and offered her a coat, but it was something else opening the curtain. The girl saw the young duke riding next to the carriage on a horse. He saw that the girl was not feeling well, so he handed her a package. When she opened it, she saw a pomegranate and was very surprised, because at such a time of the year it would be difficult to get this fruit. They had been traveling for several days. Rick believed that since they were traveling for a long time, nothing should happen at the border, but the young duke said that it was not time to lose their vigilance, and they should be careful until they reached the duchy. Finally, they reached their destination. Young duke woke up. Rafia, she apologized to him once again, to which she received a remark, because she apologizes all the time after getting out of the carriage. The man congratulated the girl on her arrival, and she was shocked at how beautiful this place was. The staff of Solea congratulated the young duke on his return, and the New Year reported that they were preparing for the New Year's party. But now it is more important to rest after the journey. Rafia realized that she did not congratulate the young duke on the New Year, but decided that she would definitely find a moment to tell him this. Anton Maurice, the chief butler of the Duchy of Soleil, met Rafia. He led them to the girl's room. She was delighted with the appearance of the room, but the young duke decided that it was too small. The girl insisted that she liked the room, and she would stay in it. He did not object. The man confronted Rafia with the fact that she would need to say hello to His Excellency. She panicked what would happen if he didn't like her. Entering the duke's room, the girl was shocked by how similar they were to the young duke. At first glance, he appeared harsh while they talked about her and her age. Margaret brought tea, but something happened and the woman dropped the cup. Rafia tried to save Herzog from the hot tea, but stuck her hand in, after which she was badly burned. Herzog asked the girl if everything was okay. She answered yes, but the man saw the reddened skin of the girl and called the doctor. Margaret apologized to Herzog and Rafia and explained the reason that her wrists usually hurt all the time, because of which her hand weakened for a moment and she let everything go. The girl noticed that the woman's hands were also burned. The doctor arrived at the duchy. The dukes insisted that he treat the girl's hand. The doctor examined her and said that she did not have a significant burn. There will be no scar, but the bandage he put on cannot be removed, and he will come for an examination tomorrow. Yakuza. The girl was glad that Herzog was not hurt. Instead, she received an accusation that she would never intervene to save someone again because she is still a child and still needed protection herself. Herzog sent her to rest. Leaving the duke's room, the young duke began to shout at the girl to never again harm her body so senselessly and to take care of her body as well as his. The man sent the girl to rest, and he himself returned to Herzog to continue the conversation. Herzog said that she looked nice and asked if he really decided to marry her. The young duke remembered his words that the lower the status of the wife the better, and this girl is an ordinary child from the asylum. Herzog asked if he knew that their marriage could not be official because she was ordinary, but young Herzog recalled how he had conveyed the plan through Pipo, to which Herzog said that he did not understand why he was so impudent, and the boy remembered how often they were compared. The duke wondered why the child was suitable for this role. The boy decided otherwise first to talk about the situation with the Estorante County. Although Solea was located in the north compared to a normal year this year, it was warm, and the corpse had already begun to decompose. But what if something went wrong, yes? 3 bodies were found in Solea. The owners of the bodies are one of the vassal families of the Duchy, the Estorante family. After Graf developed an addiction to drugs, he lost his mind and killed his wife and mother, and before he came to his senses, he committed suicide. Fortunately, the daughter did not die at the hands of her father. She was left alone, and due to the fact that she had health problems since birth, her illness worsened and she died. Hearing about this situation, Jose was worried that the death of the Count's family would become known in the Imperial family. He knew that the transfer or designation of titles should be carried out only by order, and the Emperor would send his relatives to Solea. The Duchy of Soleil had full right to inherit the throne as the closest relative of the Imperial family, but the Duchy was not an ally of the Imperial family. Their relationship worsened when Jose got married, and since then the Emperor has been pressuring Solea at every opportunity. Since he had no intention of fighting for imperial power, he made the northern part his territory, but when the Emperor's confidant came to Solea, he was drawn into the conflict. Cassain, after reading his father's fears, postponed this question for a certain time, and Jose, although he knew that it was against morality, but accepted Cassain's opinion and postponed the funeral for a while. In the end, the death of Count Estorante's family was kept a secret. The young duke emphasized that Rafia is the same age as the Count's daughter, and if they present her as his daughter, they will be able to make her an heiress and get rid of a possible headache. The duke understood that this was a big risk, and at some point it would come out. Cassain suggested that for the sake of the girl's safety, she be given up for adoption by Margaret Cerces, and assured that it would be beneficial if they changed the heirs. Since the Graf family has been forgotten by secular society, there is no risk of being discovered. The Count was a drug addict. His wife was intolerable and belligerent. Even their daughter was so weak that she could not leave the room. All this spoiled social evenings. Jose asked if the young duke was sure that the girl would survive the duty of the Countess Cassain. Answered that she has the talent to conquer people's hearts, and she is also very diligent, and he has no doubt that she will cope with it and will do everything possible to achieve the best results. Josh was shocked before he had rested from the road. He was already overwhelmed with work, saying that he had to complete all the documentation in a quarter of a day. Cassain came to Rafia. The girl opened the door for him. Margaret was also there. He impressed them with the news that from now on the girl is the daughter of the Count, and soon the property and estate will be handed over to her by inheritance. Since the title will pass to her only when she comes of age, she will be called the Count's daughter for several years. From now on, the girl will receive a perfect education. Margaret will teach her the basics of writing. Josh will tell her about the economy, the history of the empire, and all the noble families. They will invite a private teacher to study the noble rules of etiquette and also to study social dances, playing the piano. The girl decided that she would handle everything, but she wondered what she should do with all this when their contract ends. The man replied that it was in the distant future and that she would need to make efforts to secure her place. The family of counts went to the capital to show their daughter to a famous doctor, but on the way they met a group of robbers and died. Their daughter survived, who was saved by the young duke who was in a hurry to the capital for the New Year's festival, and they went to the capital together. Cassain's testimony, this story gained wide publicity in the empire. They only talked about the girl, how small and unhappy she was, but they were surprised by why the young duke decided to accompany her. The girl wondered if it wouldn't be strange that she changed her hair color and name, but the boy reassured her because it was a common phenomenon when young sick ladies do it. But since Solea is vouching for her identity, and no one will be able to find proof that she is not real, then there was nothing to worry about. Herzog said that in the future her role will be big. The girl called him father, which puzzled the men, but he told her that it would be even better than her strictly calling him Duke. The girl wanted to refuse, but Herzog insisted. The funerals of Earl Morgan Estrant and his wife Jennifer took place Esperanta. The girl was called to say goodbye to them. She promised that she would not allow anyone to harm their family. Cassine and Herzog were approached by a man who said that they had suffered so much these days, but the man replied that he did not suffer because the family should help each other. He puzzled everyone with these words. He confronted everyone with the fact that his son and the Count's daughter had decided to get married and insisted that she remain in the duchy as his son's future bride. And Solea would accept Rafia as a member of the family, not a guest. The guests pondered whether the Count's daughter was really named Rafia, and they were outraged by the way the Duke accepts new people too easily. They poured verbal dirt on the Esteron family, until suddenly a woman interrupted them. It was Mrs. Decore. She was sure that if the girl was sick and knew nothing then, when the Duke and his son saw all her shortcomings, they would change their minds because she had not even become a young duchess. The girl liked to study, but Margaret stopped the lesson. Rafia thought that the woman had urgent business, but it turned out that it was snowing outside the window. After a while, the girl was already outside. She liked the snow. It was really cold and beautiful, but she slipped and fell. When she raised her head, she saw Neff and Nettie. She was very happy about their arrival because she missed them very much, Estrant's family, and believed that the girl was really his daughter. They told her that when they saw her for the first time, they were surprised why she was so thin and so worried, but she was glad that during this time, Rafia gained a little weight. The young lady thanked them for the book and said that thanks to it, she can immediately choose what she wants to eat, and she has already found her favorite dish. It was pasta with a lot of stew and pavlova dessert. Neff and Nettie hugged Rafia, and Margaret chased them away, thinking that the girl was uncomfortable. The woman said that from now on, Rafia needs to communicate with all the employees in U, including her, because no aristocrat speaks with respect to the servants. Nettie asked if it was Rafia's first time to see snow. When she heard the answer, she took the snow in her hands and began to sculpt something. In a moment, she molded a heart and presented it to the girl, which touched her very much. Josh was in the room with Herzog. Offering to air the room, he saw snowmen on the windowsill. Herzog also approached the window. When the girls saw that he was watching, they were very scared. He told the girl not to get cold and go into the house, and Josh emphasized that if he doesn't save the snowmen, then it's over. Rafia really liked to write. After rewriting the previous book, she decided to find something more difficult. Considering that there are always more complicated books on the highest shelves, when she climbed to the top and looked through several books, she saw a book with a family pattern. When she tried to get it, she accidentally began to fall with it, but the young Duke caught her saying that she really cannot be left for even a minute. When she told how she ended up here, he understood how quickly she learns. The girl wondered how long he had been in the library, and the boy replied that he had been reading here before she came in and fell asleep. The young Duke asked what book she wanted to read, and he would get it. The puzzled girl pointed to the book, How to Tell Funny Jokes. The boy remarked to her why she was still addressing Anton and Margaret in a respectful manner. She replied that she still could not, and after a moment, he told her to address them as it would be convenient for her, but when the boy left, she took that very book through which she fell. In the Copan Empire, due to doctrinal differences, a war broke out between them, and the winning order condemned the losing order. Because of this, the losing order fled into the narrow gorge of Magente to avoid judgment. Reading page after page, the girl realized that the losing order was the clan of her Granier family, and in any case, the person who wrote the book did not like that they fled into the Magente Gap. Her name meant La, God, Pia, to serve. It was also written in the book that the chosen child will be able to use 3 levels of power. The first is shyness, the second is hypnosis, and the third, although it exists, but no one has been able to reach it. In the morning, the girl asked Margaret who buys books for the library. The woman answered that the budget is set by Josh, and the butler Anton is responsible for the purchase. She was also interested in whether this library is used only by the ducal family, to which she also received the answer that no, it's an old story, but there was a case when books and documents were burned at the request of the temple. At that time, the head of the family had a strong desire to study, because of which he decided not to cooperate with the temple, and they became enemies. Thanks to this, many books were preserved to this day. After this story, Rafia wondered if there were many enemies in the Soleil family. Margaret answered that no, because they are very afraid of strangers, although many people still hope to see the Blue Hall. She wondered why it was difficult for them to be in front of people, and it was good that she was able to avoid it. And at that moment, she remembered that today she had her first meeting with the etiquette teacher. Viscountess Deckers and Rafia met the girl, thanked the woman for quickly agreeing to teach her. The woman asked whether the heroine had really been sick since childhood. The girl quickly found the answer and said that it was true, and that is why she was learning everything so late. The heroine asked if she could address Audrey as a teacher, and the woman asked to call her by her name and told her that if they build friendly relations, or if the girl will get used to her, she will be able to call her by her name. Otherwise, refusing to walk in a circle is an aristocratic manner of speaking in social circles. The girl understood that she had shown tactlessness, and Audrey reassured her that she was here to teach her step by step. In order to relax the atmosphere, the woman emphasized to Rafia that they both wore green dresses, complemented each other, and green was her favorite color. She also had green eyes, and she said that it was her pride, and said that it was intended for the chosen ones. Audrey told that green was also the color of the ears of the royal family, and remembered that the girl was only in her estate and never saw His Majesty and princes. Due to the fact that the girl was very nervous, she felt exhausted. Margaret asked how the first class went. Rafia said that she seemed to her to be a kind and bright person, and a little unusual. She was curious about Viscount Deckers. Viscount Deckers is a vassal of the Herzog family. He deals with various matters, instead of Herzog in the capital, and therefore is very rarely in the estate. And although Viscount is not in Celea, Audrey came from the capital. Who knows, maybe she liked being in Celea more. The girl looked at the pile of invitations and did not know what to do with them. Margaret said that everyone must be wondering what the lady is, however, this will have to wait for. Now Rafia was afraid that it would be tactless, but she was reassured that according to history, she is the only survivor of such a tragedy, and they are showing tactlessness in this case. Through one of the twins, the chef asked when the girl's birthday was. He really wanted to prepare a huge and beautiful 10-tier cake, and he was already thinking of the decor. Rafia answered that on the first day of October. Cassine's birthday was Herzog's is on the last day of November, and the boy's is the day after tomorrow. The girl was scared because she had not prepared a present. Margaret reassured her because the Duke and his son had never celebrated this day separately. It turned out that he hated celebrating his birthday, so in the morning of that day, they just congratulate him briefly. The girl decided that it was a special day, and she needed to write him a greeting letter, but she rewrote it as many as 38 times. She understood that this was the only thing she could give him. A man came to Audrey. He heard that she took on the role of teaching the girl etiquette. He was outraged that the woman did not inform them about it. The woman made it clear that she agreed to this proposal because she had a plan since before their wedding a few years ago. There is time to clarify everything. The girl decided that it was not fair that the young Duke received all the reports about her, and she did not even know where he was. Rafia decided that the best solution would be to look for him in the rooms. Rick was in the first room. The man did not want to cause her inconvenience, but he will move to another place, but she decided that he might know where Cassine is. Now, he offered to give him the letter right away, but the girl refused because she wanted to do it herself. Rick said that at such a time the guy is at the training ground, and since it was her first visit to the ground, he will take her there. Going to the platform, Rafia remembered that Rick Gunter was the first person she killed in order to capture the deputy commander of Celea's night squad. At that time, she simply hated him, or was afraid of him. At that time, the man asked if she was afraid of him. She said that she was not. The man showed she had nowhere to go and turned back. She found him, but he forbade her to approach, thrusting his sword into the ground. He approached the girl. He asked why she was not sleeping at such a time. She needed enough sleep to grow up. After the question, the boy asked for what purpose she was here. She took out a watch. The boy immediately recognized the girl's watch, but did not understand why it was for her. The girl looked at the watch for a while, and when the time came, she wished him a happy birthday. The young Duke was surprised and realized that his birthday had actually come. She handed him a letter after congratulating him. She decided to return to the estate. The young Duke wanted to see her. At first, she refused because she thought he was tired, but he offered her to go for a walk together. The girl asked if he really liked his birthday. When she heard a positive answer, she began to sing a song, although it was a little embarrassing, but he liked it. In honor of his birthday, the boy asked the girl to call him by the name Zine. The girl did not understand how she could call the young duke by his name. His mother used to call him that, since no one calls him that anymore, he asked her. While they were talking, it snowed outside. The young duke said that as for the snow, he never liked it. But now, for some reason, he is happy. She was the last person of the Grenier clan. On the day she escaped, everyone who was there died. Therefore, when she disappears in the distant future, she hopes that someone will remember them. Hoping that someone will remember Grenier, he left his mark in a safe place, the only family that did not obey the Imperial family, and the temple is Saleya. It will become stronger and will never obey anyone again. Rafia looked at Zine and said that when she looks at him, her neck starts to hurt. The guy got down on one knee, so now he is shorter than her. The girl started laughing because it was the first time in 2 years since their first meeting when he was a beggar for her. Then he said goodbye, got into the carriage, and drove away. The girl asked if he would return later today. Margaret answered that most likely yes, because the problems of trade were not solved for more than a year. He went to the meeting to reduce the price of salt supply, because the buying and selling side raised the price too much. Audrey and Rafia had a fan lesson today. The girl didn't think it was so difficult, and now she needs to make a compress as soon as possible before the pain in the cyst worsens. But before finishing the lesson, the woman wanted to suggest something. A year passed imperceptibly as they together learned manners of ethics and speech and secular society. The girl developed very quickly. In this discipline, not only theory was important, but also practice. Therefore, the woman offered to attend some social event, something like a tea party, and brought an invitation. There is a brown-haired Mrs. Bridget in Count Galone. She is 2 years older than the girl, and she was also Audrey's favorite. Next week, Mrs. Bridget Halloran is having her first tea party in her life. They say she invites many guests of her age, so it would not be bad if the girl came there and found new acquaintances. Rafia looked at the invitation and understood that it would not be bad for the future, and warned Audrey that she would not be able to give an answer right away, and thanked her for such a good opportunity to go out to people. They decided that she would think about it and send the answer to the county of Galone. The girl entered the Herzog's room and asked if he was busy. He replied that he was going to rest. She brought tea. The man asked why she was doing what subordinates should do, and she answered that she wanted to spend more time with him. Josh asked Rafia to help him with Herzog because he threatened that if the snowman melted, it would be the end of him, and he had so many things to take care of, the girl was going to solve it. But the man did not think so. He said not to touch them because it is his passion. Rafia felt ashamed that she did not make more snowmen. Then she said that she did not come for nothing and wanted to ask something. She wanted to quietly interact with other families she had been practicing for a long time, and no longer behaves distractedly. She did not pour the tea and put the cup down without a sound. The husband looked at her and understood that since birth, he had not seen such a careful and calm child. The girl asked what Zine was like. Herzog replied that he did not look like a child at all. He was shocked that she called him Zine. She told him about the invitation to the tea party. The man replied, if necessary, let them come, but the fact is that she wanted to see how other families arrange them, and then arrange a tea party on her behalf. He understood her and asked which family would do it. The county of Galone has long been adept at profiting, so he allowed her to come and tell her about their situation. He also added that if something suddenly embarrasses her, even a little, she should immediately tell him everything. Rafia wrote a letter in response to the Galone family. She was worried that no one would say anything bad about her bad writing. One of the twins said that if she had received such a letter from the lady, she would have kept it for the rest of her life as a family heirloom. The girl asked if Zine had come. She was told that he had not, but he would return soon. She decided to go meet him. The girls wanted to see her off, but Rafia said that she was not young anymore and let them do their own business. The guards were talking about the fact that sword blades are dulling very quickly, and then they saw Rafia. They were confused and said that the young duke had not returned yet. She replied that she had gone out to meet him and asked if they had finished today's training. The men were glad that they had an opportunity to talk with her until Zine arrived. She heard their story about the fact that swords dull quickly and asked them to show them, to which she heard that it was a dangerous object for her. She said that she will not wave it and will only look, and it will remain a secret for the young duke. The men refused for a long time, but the promise that no one would find out, and the sweet look of the lady confused them. The girl held out her little finger to make a deal, and the men hardly quarreled about who would pull in return. The girl said that she already wanted to look at the sword. They knelt down and held out both. In order not to cause a dispute, the girl promised that she would try to examine both. She realized that the swords are not dull because they are sharpened incorrectly. The girl ran her finger over the sword, which scared the men very much. She noticed something strange. Maybe it was corrosion. Rafia asked how they take care of the swords. They answered that the main method of care is washing with water and wiping with a dry cloth. She asked where the water came from and found out that it was from Mount Caelus. She went to the mountain. Then it was still day, and now the sun has set. She didn't know how long she was there, and it seemed to her that she was walking in circles and realized that she needed to go back as soon as possible. Suddenly, she heard a noise. It was hungry wolves. 5 hours before she found herself in the forest, in the big blue hall the girl had already tried on the outfit. It seemed more comfortable to her than everyday clothes. She told one of the girls that the guest should not be more elegant than the organizer of the holiday. She turned her head and saw Herzog standing and looking out the window, although he had a lot to do. He answered that he was out for a walk. He asked if she was leaving, and if she remembered his words to not tolerate any circumstances. She said, which of course remembers. The man sent guards along with Rafia to protect her at the cost of their own lives, and wished her to be careful. The girl promised that she would return soon and set off on her way. Mrs. Bridget was sitting at the table with the other girls. She was told about Rafia's arrival. She said hello and apologized that they started the tea party without her. She didn't even notice how late she was for the appointed time, and no matter what, it's not polite in relation to her. Despite the fact that they are taught by the same teacher, there must be a reason why they act like that. The girl replied that it is not normal, but they started anyway. Bridget decided to introduce all the guests because they knew each other, and Rafia met them for the first time. They were Mrs. Emily first. Mrs. Lucy Harshen. They greeted each other and continued the tea party. The girl thought that they would avoid her and not talk, but to her surprise, everyone continued the conversation, although she felt superfluous in their company. She was asked that she lives in the big blue hall, and since it is not her native house, they asked if she does not feel uncomfortable there. She answered that it is not like that. Everyone treated her well, and it is very calm there. Mrs. Bridget asked if she got along well with the young Duke. That was the reason why they were not friendly with her. Mr. Zane, that girl had no reason to accept such an attitude on her side. She replied that he cares for her and is very kind. The girls laughed at her and said that despite the fact that she is his bride, she still knows very little about him, that he is not the kind of person who opens up to another partner so easily. Rafia replied that it was with them because they are different people, and how can he treat everyone the same? One day the day will come, and they will be able to see it, his friendly smile, and even if she tells them more, they still won't believe it until they see it with your own eyes. To the girls, they looked to make sure that everything was going well for Audrey. The presence of Rafia was a surprise, and she thanked her for the fact that the girl was able to defend the honor of the mentor. Audrey introduced Rafia to Countess Hera Galone. The Countess finally saw the girl's face, and she in turn apologized for declining the invitation due to her health. The woman asked what they were planning to do. Bridget said that they would talk a little more and part ways because you can't fill your stomach with tea. Audrey said that she prepared an interesting event. Bridget is the first student of whom she is very proud, and it is worthy of praise that she arranged such a wonderful tea party today. So she, as a mentor, prepared a small entertainment. The rules were simple. With the permission of Mrs. Galone, she has hidden several notes in different places. Everyone will need to find 2 notes. It is a kind of treasure hunt, but the path on which they are hidden is connected to the forest, which is used as a hunting ground, so you need to be careful and do not enter deep. Emily first found the first note, which read, Zill's music box. Riemann Zill Raymond is a famous craftsman, so she thought it was great. The next note was found by Bridget Galone. It was written, Network Fan. The girl really hoped that it was similar to the one used by the teacher. Rafia decided that it would not be easy for her to get close to them, so she decided to take a little walk around the neighborhood and only then return. She was enjoying the forest. Suddenly, she saw a fox. She was wounded most likely because of the fact that there are hunting grounds nearby, and she got into a trap. The girl decided to help her. The fox started to run away, but the heroine ran after her and fell, and suddenly realized that she was lost. She was overcome by panic, began to feel bad. As then in the carriage, when they were going to Saleya, a man passed near her who was definitely looking for her. The heroine understood that she was walking in circles, and she needed to turn back as soon as possible. She turned around and saw the first Yuri who took her from the shelter. He asked if she liked playing hide and seek, and called her real last name, and decided to return her to the place where she should be. Suddenly, Mr. Zine appeared out of nowhere and protected the girl from the wolves. Yuri began to walk away. The girl asked how he ended up here and began to cry. The boy tried to calm her down and asked her to close her eyes because it looks scary and he will protect her. He wanted to erase them with his aura, but he still had problems with regulation, and he was afraid of hurting the girl. There were a lot of wolves, and the boy understood that if he went like this, they could both be in danger. Zine wanted her to be closer to him so that he wouldn't worry, but he understood that his strength was running out. He told her that if she goes a little to the right from here, there will be a horse, and that she should wait for him there, and asked him not to worry about him. The boy decided to use his aura. The girl was standing by the horse and was waiting for Zine. Suddenly, he approached her. She saw his blood and was afraid that he was injured. The young duke said that everything was fine, that the blood was not his, but in fact, he was injured. Rafia was very worried that it was because of her and started to cry. The boy said that everything is fine, and in such moments, only thanks is enough. He admitted that he was able to find her only thanks to Pipo. They went home. The boy told her to ride the horse and he would walk beside her because her leg was injured. The girl gave an ultimatum that if he continued to resist, she would go alone and leave him alone. Zine asked if she knew how to ride a horse. She said that she was learning it. He became interested in how she would ride with such short legs and the wrong fit, and he decided to trust her and check how she rides. In the meantime, the Duke arrived in Gallo County and emphasized that if he could not find his daughter-in-law today, then everyone knew what he could do. The man said that there was no accident during the game. The Duke was not satisfied with such an answer because he believed that the Gellone family was involved in the disappearance of his daughter-in-law. The knights combed the entire forest until suddenly Zine and Rafia appeared on the horizon. Margaret was shocked by their appearance. Zane said that everything is fine. That woman did not understand how everything could be fine if they came back with such wounds. That guy said that there are a lot of eyes here and he will explain everything later. The Gallo family once again offered their condolences for this incident. The Duke did not answer him, only emphasized to provide a horse escort for the crew of the young Duke and his bride. Bridget had the imprudence to say that they made a lot of noise because of some girl her father had to apologize. Because of his daughter, he wanted to make her apologize. But she shouted that she shouldn't do that because she can express her thoughts out loud. She also added that her parents also think so, because if it wasn't for this girl, it was Bridget who would have been the young Duke's bride. Her father couldn't stand it and slapped her in the face to make her shut up. Taking the girl by the hair, the man apologized to the Duke that he didn't succeed. Raise my daughter properly. The Duke said that he thinks that the problem here is not only the girl, and emphasized that they should behave properly at this time. Audrey looked at the Count and gestured for him to be silent. A few days later, a lock of hair arrived from the family of Count Gellone. This is an oath to ban Bridget from social life until her hair grows back, but the Duke was dissatisfied with their behavior and deprived the Count of the rights to own hunting grounds. Cassine did not regain consciousness. The girl was by his side all the time. She remembered how he said that everything was fine, although in reality, everything was not so, and as soon as they arrived at the estate, he lost consciousness. She was sorry that spiritual power is useless in such a situation. She took his hand and began to ask him to recover, and at that time he came to his senses. The girl at first thought that it seemed to her a dream, but it was real. The boy immediately began to ask if she was injured. The girl was shocked. She was shocked because he was hurt, but for some reason she was worried about her and called him a fool, to which she replied that he had been in bed for 3 days, and she was fine. He replied that he said he would protect her and they would both be safe. He started laughing and told her to stop crying, because that way she only gets uglier, and he said that it was time for her to go to sleep because she definitely won't grow up like that. And the girl said that she doesn't have to grow up. The main thing is his health, so she asked him to stay by his side. The guy told her to lie down next to him, which really shocked her. He said that he would not be able to sleep when she was sitting so uncomfortable. He sat down because of the pain and said that if she is not comfortable, then he is not comfortable, and if she does not lie down, he will continue to sit like that, and if he continues, his wound will open. She lay down next to him and said that she was very worried. If you think about it, he was actually much younger than her. But why does he seem so mature and makes her feel comfortable? Cassine went outside. Rick Gunter came up to him and asked if he could move and not to overwork himself. The guy replied that thanks to the girl's care, he feels much better, but Rick still emphasized that he should not overwork himself and not increase your state. The young duke did not understand why everyone around was grumbling so much because he said that he felt great, although in reality it was not so great. Then he was sure that he had coped with everything and did not even think that another beast was lying in wait. He allowed himself to relax his vigilance and had to become even stronger to protect the people dear to him. The guy asked why she looked so happy. She answered that it's because during his rest they constantly eat together, which can't help but make him happy. The guy said that in any case she will soon be 13 and he will be able to find out everything about her. The girl replied that it is not necessary to wait. She can tell now because there is trust between them, although it can be dangerous since there was no time to tell him before, and then someone was hunting for her in the forest. The guy said that he was busy saving her and could not then see the person who disappeared in the trees, but judging by his build, he was about his age. Zine asked if it was the same person who hunted her in the capital. The girl confirmed and wanted to tell the reason for the hunt. Rafia said that she is Grenier. The boy asked again. She said that this is the family name of her family, which is destined to carry the words of God to the world. Also, Rafia is also no longer used everywhere, being a word of a dead language, and the very mention of their genealogy in real time under the ban of the church. Cassine asked that she was being persecuted only because she belonged to this family, and no matter how unbelievers they were, she was not to blame for everything. A child who does not know anything. She said that in the Grenier family, sometimes someone is born with spiritual power. Such children are called Rafia, but this power can be used only after reaching the age of 13. The words uttered by the voice acquire the power of subjugation, and thanks to it, you can control the strength and mind of another person. The guy replied that he had noticed it even earlier when she talked about her lack of love for priests, and he then suspected that she had a bad relationship with the church, but he could not even imagine that she had this kind of ability, and wondered why exactly before the age of 13. She replied that she did not know, but she learned about it from a dream. After it, everything was exactly the same as in a dream, starting with the arrival of a person who wants to become her guardian at the shelter, so she believed in everything that happened in the dream. She said that she started running away because she knew who would come after her and how they would treat her. Zane asked if she found out the person's identity. The girl answered Yuri, and although they were of different ages and genders, they called themselves the same. And they had one leader who took her from the shelter. He was called the first Yuri. In a dream, they caught her and began to force her to do all their orders. With the help of her power, she manipulated and harmed many people, including his close friend. Now the guy understood why she reacted like that when she saw Rick for the first time. He asked if she wanted to change the future she saw in her dream. She answered that she did, and she needed his help. She didn't want Yuri to use her, to which she received the answer that no one could allow. He asked why she wasn't surprised when she saw his aura, because she saw it in a dream. Rafia answered that yes, and when it comes to him, you can't even be surprised, and she also read about it in a book of Imperial history. It said that the first emperor possessed a similar power, and Zine was part of his bloodline, so it stands to reason that he also possessed it. Telling this, she remembered that she had a present for him. She handed him a beautiful sword, saying that she had learned that he had broken his sword that day, and since he had broken it because of her, she had prepared another for him. The guy said that it was not necessary, but he accepted it. He looked at the sword and said that it was not ordinary and looked more like a ceremonial weapon than a combat weapon. She said that before buying it, she learned everything about it. The merchant said that it is made of elven stone and diamonds, so it is definitely strong. She put her hand on the sword and said that she hopes that this sword will be able to protect Mr. Zane, and that no matter what happens, it will never break. She sincerely believes that if he puts his intentions and will into this sword, he will be able to cut through anything with it. It seemed to the boy for a moment that the sword was glowing, and he did not understand whether it was an illusion or reality. The girl said that there was something else she wanted to say. She said that she would lie down soon, and with these words, she really scared the young duke. He did not understand what "I'm going to lie" means, or whether she meant that someone poisoned her. She said that this is not the point, and perhaps this process is necessary in order for her to be able to use spiritual power effectively. She said that in her dream it took 1 month, but now the situation is developing in a different way, so the transition may be longer or, on the contrary, faster. The guy asked if it was possible that using this power would overload her body. She did not know what to answer him. The guy understood why she was bleeding on the day of their first meeting. He asked her not to use this power, but she reminded that this is exactly what she promised from the very beginning. He wondered if her words that she would kill people were meant seriously. She said that it was clear that no one would believe that such a small girl is capable of such things. Zine said that if someone bothers him, he will find out for himself what the point of revenge is if it is not made by his hands. He said that only those who are incapable of anything use other people's forces for their own interests. Such people are simply pathetic, and until their death, they will not be able to understand the meaning of their goals. Cassine asked. She said that she would lie if she was against the doctor, then at the expense of the priest. The girl answered that if he found out that she was Grenier's successor, then she would be accused of heresy, and then they would not support the duchy for anything. The guy said that they don't have many options. First, you need to follow the first Yuri, and it will be difficult because he is secretive and never shows himself openly in public. He asked the girl if she had any guesses as to who it could be. She said that she had one. She said, first of all, the information that she is sick should not get out to any doctor, and asked to fire all the tutors. The young duke became curious if she really thought that there was a suspicious person among the teachers, and asked if it would not be better to keep this person around so that there would be an opportunity to follow her. Yuri can predict her actions, especially since he knows the exact time when her powers will manifest, and if she gradually begins to cut off the threads by which they can find out about her, it is possible that when they are all cut off, the chance of finding him will increase. Today was the last class with Audrey. She was sad to finish like that. She considered Rafia the best student and decided to ask why she decided to interrupt her studies. So suddenly the girl said that it was because of family matters. The woman sharply asked if the girl did not feel enmity towards the Duke or his son. The girl did not understand her. Audrey continued that she had to choose a partner at such a young age, and if the groom is not to her liking, and she cannot do anything about it, she will find another who will love more than the young Duke. She asked whether the Duke had been trying to tame her since childhood, and whether she had doubted all this at least once. The girl interrupted her and replied that if it is about mind control, then she is wrong. That woman said that she meant something more seductive in its treachery, something that breaks the human soul and will. Rafia answered if Saleya had a reason for this from the first day they were so grateful and generous, so she asked not to put pressure on her kindness and not cross the line from the outside. It may seem that Saleya chose her, but it was quite the opposite. She also added that she herself decided that Mr. Zine would be her king, and everything suits her, especially during this time she learned a lot, and that she should turn to Anton for payment. Audrey hissed through clenched teeth that who would accept such small funds. Then the girl asked if the funds of the ducal family were a penny for her, then for what purpose she came to the Saleya estate. Despite the high-profile tragedy, the ownership of the hunting grounds was transferred calmly, but she clearly remembers that day. The person who suggested the treasure hunt game, the person who prompted her to find herself in the forest, was her, the Viscountess. The girl understood that the woman was trying to get close to her with a certain goal, but she did not want to inquire about the reason, as well as why she was pushed to go to the hunting grounds. But this did not mean that Rafia forgave her, so she gave her a chance to leave quietly. She added that he does not tolerate the slightest mistakes, and if he finds out about the mistake, what kind of punishment will he come up with for her? But no matter what goals she pursued, the girl did not want her teacher to suffer. Rafia doesn't care what Audrey says now that their plan has failed. Yuri will start to worry, and will work out a new plan at the very least until he wins a little time. But you need to be ready and prepare. Audrey came to Yuri because he called her and said that he went out to get some air and looked at her. It turns out that Saleya is more peaceful than he imagined. He doesn't even have to make an effort. He said that he really appreciates how she takes care of her family and strives for success. That's why he shared his name with her. He trusted her and had high hopes, but what he learned disappointed him a lot. And now that he almost got the precious stone, he was mistaken for a person. The woman said that she did everything she could, but the man said that fruitless efforts are the same as garbage, and he asked her not to doubt her devotion, to try to the point of complete exhaustion. After that, he took her by the throat and squeezed her very hard. He said that if he needs her, he will send a person to her, so she needs to hide for a while. And he began to think about how to make the next move. Rafia was looking out the window. Suddenly, there was a knock on her. It was Zine. He asked if she was not embarrassed that she would not be able to leave the mansion for 10 days. She said that everything is fine. Neff and Nettie bring her books and play with her. She said that it was so busy on the street. Didn't the guests come suddenly? He said that that's why he came. The Imperial family sent a messenger, but no one knows the reason for such a sudden arrival, so it's better for her to sit in the room and not show herself. The messenger arrived at the Duchy to read the order from the Emperor. The boy was a little late and apologized. The messenger asked if everyone was really present, because he heard that the young Duke recently got engaged, and they answered that at the moment the girl is not feeling well and is now at home arrest. The Duke asked if the Emperor had given an order to find out that his daughter-in-law was under house arrest. The man read the order, which stated that the sword of the Empire, the Duchy of Solea, by order of the Emperor, should participate in the war to suppress the monsters from the West. They were given a great honor, to sacrifice their lives in the name of protecting the Emperor. A week ago, at a meeting of the Cabinet of Ministers, a decision was made to involve more than 50% of the knights from the orders belonging to the families of the highest aristocracy, and the second and third princes from the Imperial family also took part in the battle. Herzog tried to find out the reason for Rafia's rejection of all the tutors and the fact that she is under house arrest, but the boy only said that he acted according to her will and that they should wait for her to tell them everything herself. Joseph, that was the name of the Emperor, has long wanted to appropriate the Western lands, and in the end, he had the opportunity to do it. It seems that he wants to make his kingdom even grander. The appearance of a common enemy will strengthen the unity of the inhabitants of the Empire, and it will also be able to change the opinion of those who recently began to worship in front of the temple. Besides, they will succeed in enslaving the enemy, which will have a good effect on entrepreneurship. And if he succeeds, he will go down in history. But maybe you shouldn't be in such a hurry, since the Emperor first needs to decide on a successor, one way or another. The war is a good opportunity to test the innate talents of the monarch. The guy said that they need to choose a clear course. Maybe before the reign of the Duke enmity with the Imperial family was in the order of things, but he is different, and he has a person whom he must protect. He does not want to make enemies. The Duke replied that Joseph's sons may differ from him, but let him do as he sees fit. He needs to weigh all the strengths and weaknesses, so he will participate in the war. The guy asked Herzog for a favor and wanted him to appoint Rick as Rafia's escort. He was the only person he could rely on and trust. Cassine asked Rick to gather a list of knights of the order who will go to battle during the day and bring it before midnight. He told Josh that he would go to war with him, but he was a secretary and did not own a weapon. The Duke looked at his son and understood how he had grown up mentally. He turned to the boy's mother and said that their son had grown up. The boy met Rafia and looked at her for a long time. The girl asked what was wrong, to which he replied that she has grown up a lot. She learns very quickly and always exceeds all expectations. She is strong, so he believes that she will do well without him. Rafia did not understand what he was talking about. She thought that he was leaving again for a few days on business and asked if it was somehow related to the Imperial messenger. The boy answered that most likely it would take not a few days, but several years, if not more. He told her about the Western lands, and that this time a full-scale expansion is approaching. And by order of the Emperor, they must participate in the war to subdue the monsters of the West. So tomorrow morning he is going to the capital. The girl asked if it was not very dangerous. The boy answered that his role was to provide support to the two princes who would lead the troops on the front line. She said that he should be careful. The boy gave the girl a gift. It was a pen that Mr. Zine constantly used, the only memory of his mother. He said that the feathers needed care, so that they would not spoil during his absence. He asked her to take care of it and write so that it would not harden. Rafia asked if she could write letters with this pen. It is not necessary to answer them. He will obviously be busy, and he will not have time to answer. The boy allowed her, saying that it would be appropriate, saying that Peppo would help with this. The guy asked if she could conduct it if she was under house arrest, although it was a preposition not to show herself to outsiders, although in any case it would be problematic. She was already sad because the young Duke would leave her for such a long time. She will miss him very much. He said that while he is gone, Rick will protect her. She said that the year is his assistant. Zine said that even if he scares her and she is not comfortable with him, she should still keep him close to her. He is the only person who can protect her in her absence. He took her by the hand and asked what she would be doing. She answered that she would hope that he would return soon safe and sound. He told her not to worry, and he would be around soon. The girl watched through the window as Zine and the army left the estate watching them. With her eyes, she was very sad and asked him for her to return safely as soon as possible. About 10 days have passed since that day when he left. She sat sad and held his hand thinking about where Mr. Zine was now. During such a period of time, she thought that he was most likely already in the West, but she was glad that thanks to Pipo, she could to receive news from him from time to time. As she heard the second and third princes are responsible for separate divisions, and Mr. Zine for the support unit controlling the supply issue. Fortunately in the rear, he had less chance of getting seriously injured than on the front line. She was thinking when would be the best time to send a letter to Zane. He must be very busy, so if she sends it now, he won't even have time to read it now. Is not the time for that, and she should slowly prepare. Rafia came to Herzog and asked if Zine told him her story. The man replied that he did not tell him anything, and only asked to wait until she told him everything herself, and asked how long she was going to be under house arrest. She said that soon the time of her house arrest will come to an end, but before that happens, she wants to ask him for help. She said that only Mr. Zine and Margaret know about it, that she will soon go to bed, so she asked not to be afraid of this. He didn't understand what she meant. She said that the closest thing to her would be a severe fever, but everything would be fine and she wouldn't die. The man didn't understand what she meant and didn't understand who to call a doctor or a priest. She asked not to call anyone. She said that these symptoms are only appearances, and in reality she will not be sick, but no one should know about her condition. The man did not understand what she meant and asked her to explain. They talked, and she apologized for not telling him about it. Earlier, he said that he had heard the story about the existence of her family. Rafia said that she understood that her presence could be a threat to the duchy, but she hoped that he would help her. The Duke said she was already part of the Duchy of Celea, and to hurt her would be the same as hurting their entire family, and he would definitely protect her and promised to find out something about Yuri. But she had one more request. After this painful transition takes place and her condition improves, she would like to engage in official activities as the daughter of Count Esterant. She would like to slowly start to show herself. Since her name is widely known, she is still afraid that Yuri will reveal her, but she understood that running away will not solve anything. She wants to become stronger. He said that the Count's property is now under Celea's consignment, but he will return it to her so she can use it as she wishes. He promised her that he would complete all the procedures before she opened her eyes again. He believed that she would manage. The servants talked among themselves and decided that since Rafia is under house arrest, the Duke does not like her very much, especially since Cassin has left, and she has absolutely no one who can protect her. Margaret came to Herzog and informed him that the girl had fallen asleep. The woman understood that he forbade her, but asked if they really couldn't call a doctor, to which the man replied that this was exactly what she asked, not to call anyone. He asked the woman to keep an eye on the twins, because no one should know about it, except that she should not take a single step away from Rafia until she regained consciousness. The Duke said that he was very busy, but he would still visit the girl sometimes. The girl understood that in her past life she only needed to think about them so that they appeared before her. But why is everything different now? Most likely everyone is worried about her, and she needs to come to her senses as soon as possible. The girl fell into the water, but did not even get wet and was not injured. She saw a large number of large gears, but did not understand why they were all there. Maybe there's a connection between them? And if so, then there must have been a mistake somewhere. And she found her. It was more difficult than she thought, but she managed, and they started moving. Only one mistake led to a complete stop of the whole mechanism like dominoes. She understood that if she did it, her life would be different. She looked around and saw the gate of spiritual power, but something told her that something was wrong. The place where she was looking for the gate was darkened now. Everything is different. She understood that this time everything will work out for her. Now, she will not use her power for anything. A voice was calling her. He asked if she had found her strength. If so, then she should wake up as soon as possible. Everyone is waiting for her. It seemed to her that Zine was calling her. He was saying that her beloved rain was falling outside, so she needed to wake up as soon as possible. In the morning, Margaret went into the girl's room and saw that she had already woken up. She asked how long she slept, to which the woman replied that it was half a month Rafia thanked for taking care of her, and said that she would definitely thank others when she felt better. The heroine asked if anyone had come to her last night. Margaret was surprised, and said that she was with the girl all night, and no one else was near her, but she said that she left for 15 minutes to wet a towel. No one would have been able to enter, because Rick was on guard at the door. She asked if something had happened, to which the girl replied that she just had a dream. She did not understand why everything was so real. Did she begin to hallucinate? Or did he really pass this way for the sake of 15 minutes? Suddenly, an excited Herzog burst into the room. He said that as soon as he found out that the girl had regained consciousness, he immediately ran to her and apologized for scaring her. He also added that he had solved all the problems she had mentioned earlier. He also said that she can do whatever she wants, but if she needs help, she can always turn to him. Rafia asked whether they had solved the problem with the salt turnover, which Mr. Zine had been negotiating with before his departure, and asked her husband to entrust her with these negotiations. The man did not think for long, but said that the girl was growing before his eyes, after which he handed over the matter to her. The girl came to Rick's room saying that she wouldn't take up much of his time, thanked him for taking care of her all this time. The man was embarrassed, and said that he was just doing his duty. She said that she would like to establish a relationship, because she also chose Zine as her king. Each of them plays their role, but somehow they care about him, so she hoped for their friendship in the future, and promised that she would no longer cry and run away from him in the form. The man accepted her friendship, and as a sign of reconciliation, Rafia offered to go on a hike. She wanted to strengthen her endurance. They really went, but the girl was quickly exhausted. Rick offered to carry her on his back, but the girl refused. Then he said that during their daily training, they carry much heavier things on their backs, and added that after the illness, it will be difficult for her to reach the top, and if he carries her, they will reach it faster. She said that climbing to the top is not the most important thing for her, and offered to rest, explore the surroundings, and gradually climb further. Rick looked at her and said that he did not think that she would wear the young duke's clothes, to which she replied that she did not have time to choose an outfit. Rafia asked where they were now. Rick said that they were already halfway there. It was very difficult to climb the mountain. She wondered if she could find it. Suddenly, she saw what she was looking for at her feet and started to eat. Rick was puzzled by such actions and said that they needed to get down from the mountain so that she wouldn't get sick. The girl laughed and said that she wouldn't get sick. After all, she found rock salt, and since they found this piece here, there must be a cave somewhere nearby, and I offered to find it. Having found the cave, they entered it. There were very large stalks. Rick was amazed, because before he had only seen this in pictures and books. She offered to simply look around and return before it got dark. She wanted to show the piece of salt to Herzog as soon as possible. The Duke was surprised because he considered salt to be an imported product, so he did not even think to look for it within his possessions. He asked the girl how she came up with this. She said that before going to bed, she collected all the facts she knew, because knight swords often get damaged. She inquired about their source and went with Rick to check the mountain. After several days of extensive searches, 6 salt caves were found on Mount Kalis. All of them were large enough with extensive reserves. Herzog emphasized that at this rate, rock salt will become one of the main outputs of Salea's products. Rafia offered to make colored salt, since aristocrats liked baths with salts, so there will be a demand for it. Besides, it will be possible to make jewelry. Since there is salt in Salea, they can solve the problem with the merchants that has been bothering them all the time. And since Rafia has taken this matter upon herself, she can do as she wishes, or negotiate with them, or simply break the contract. The girl asked what kind of person was next to them. Herzog said that it would not be right to throw all the responsibility on her, so he found her an assistant. That's how she met Tom. Rafia immediately asked Tom for a favor. She asked what company the young duke had previously dealt with. The boy answered that it was with the Borzo company. She immediately told him to notify them of the termination of the contract and immediately look for a new one. He asked if she had any personal wishes. She said that it would not be bad if she had information in the largest and oldest city of Copenhagen. Although it was difficult to establish connections with large companies, Tom promised that he would do his best. Rafia wrote a letter to Zine. She was interested in his health. She told him that she had recently pretended to be from a long sleep, and she dreamed of his voice. The dream was so vivid that she still thinks that he really visited her. But since his way is far to the west, he could not possibly end up in the estate of Saleya. She said that she decided to deal with the issue of salt and found a cave, and since he had been working on this matter for a long time, she would try not to disappoint him. The Duke even allowed her to use his office. In any case, she hoped that this news would at least dispel his worries a little. The girl was at the negotiations with Tom. He told her that at such rates the production of salt will gain momentum, and he added that he contacted the Arantis company, and to his surprise, they reacted positively. Their representative will personally arrive in Saleya. Jagon arrived in the Duchy Arantis. He headed the largest trading company in the empire. Despite this, he was modest enough. He wondered if anyone else would join them. The girl decided that probably because she was young, he did not take her seriously, so she decided to ask him a personal question. She asked at what age he started working in the company. He replied that at that time he was 14. Then she asked if he was the youngest employee within her limits. He replied that no, because there are those who started working at 10. Rafia said that she is 13, so everything is in order. The man was amazed because he thought that she was much younger. The girl showed a piece of salt from the caves. Jagon examined it and said that it was suitable for sale, but he would think about it. The heroine asked if she correctly understands that he appreciates their salt. The man said that it is so good that he is even jealous. She used her power and said she wanted to hear his true thoughts on whether he liked the offer. He replied that he likes it because it represents a high significance. Mr. Arantis himself was clearly burning with desire, but he still needed to be pressured a little. He said he would contact them. However, the girl replied that it is not necessary because they are not the last company to which Rafia turned. The puzzled man said that if the term he announced was too long, he asked for at least 3 days to think about it, but the girl refused. She stated that his company has a good reputation. That's why she approached them first, but they didn't have enough zeal, so she has no choice but to sign a contract with a company that has an increased interest in the case than just sitting and waiting for an answer. After listening to her, the man agreed to sign the contract, but the girl decided to change the conditions at first. She offered him income in the form of a 4th part, and now she increases her share to 7. The man accepted the conditions in return. She will conduct a rock salt extraction business. Only with the Arantis company they signed a contract. But in addition to the contract, the girl decided to ask him for a personal request. Rafia sent a letter. Rick asked if she received even one response. She replied that she would continue to write letters even if there was no response to practice handwriting. The man asked if she wasn't sad. She said that she was actually waiting for an answer and hoped that Zane was reading all her letters. Rick answered that considering how the guy treats her, the answer will come sooner or later. The girl admitted that she had already received one letter. Herzog brought it and said that it was intended for her. It was written in the letter that she does not cause him any difficulties. Rafia got to know Viscount Deckers since he conducts business only in the capital, so she had never met him before. The girl asked how the Viscountess was doing. He replied that she had gone to the monastery without any explanation. She only said that she wanted to rest in a quiet place. After this conversation, she became curious because she knew that Audrey had failed. But why Yuri was not doing anything, starting to strengthen the name at the expense of business, she began to attract more people, but Yuri was not among them. What did he plan? Rafia has already reached the age of the coming-of-age ceremony. The twins said that she has become so mature. The girl said that now Mr. Zine will not be able to joke with her that she is small. She became interested in whether Zine has changed much and when he will return. The girl said that there is no need to worry, because it has been known for a long time that men of the Saleya family are naturally strong and hardy. The girl came to Herzog. He said that 5 years had passed since the beginning of the war, and he said that it was time for her to go out into the world. In any case, she will have to make her debut this year because she has been dragging it out for 3 years, and once it was over, she offered Herzog to be her partner. He was stunned. The Duke asked if it would not be better to choose some young man as an escort and not such an old man as he, but she said that it would be better if he were and not some foreign young man from another family. In addition, if she enters the hall with him, they will look at her with envious eyes. She was upset and said that he was right, and she did not need anyone except Zine. In the Western camp, because of the failed operation, The princes quarreled among themselves. Josh asked him not to show indifference during the field meetings. After the meeting was over, Josh decided to talk to the boy. He asked him not to behave like that during military meetings. Doesn't he feel the piercing stares when he does so? He decided not to show excessive participation so as not to be hated. The man spoke when he told that he has been sitting in this vigilant place for 5 years. The conquest campaign, which should have ended a long time ago, turned into a protracted war, and he can barely hold back from laughing when he hears that someone calls it temporary difficulties. Cassin thought about writing an application for demobilization until suddenly letters were brought to them, and they were both for Josh. The man was saddened by the fact that Rafia had not received letters for more than a month. Josh emphasized that he doesn't need to be so stubborn, and if something bothers him, let him write a letter first and ask why she hasn't written to him lately. The lady will be very happy to receive a letter from him. Cassin was kept for more than 5 years, but patience was coming to an end due to the fact that in 3 weeks, Josh received 2 letters from Tom, and Rafia did not come for 2 months. Besides, he learned the news that the girl is preparing for her debut. This was the main reason. At the meeting, Zine said that they have 5 days to end this war. With this, he shocked all the men. No one understood how this was possible. They have been fighting this war for 5 years. How is he going to end it in 5 days? One day at dawn, the boy conducted his own investigation. He followed the monster to a narrow gorge at the end of the desert and found out that there was a magic stone there. He could not check the connection with other dimensions, but the monsters came out from there. Therefore, if they manage to destroy that stone and deal with the remaining monsters, then everything will end soon. It was dangerous, but they were the only ones he could rely on to get everything over with and get home. The second and third princes began to quarrel again. Xian decided to remind them of his presence because he was tired of watching these two quarrel. Suddenly, they asked him if it was true that he had a bride. Men began to ask what she looked like and became interested in what she was like as a person because they had not seen any of her portraits. Zine said that once the conversation started, he had something to tell, and he planned to end this war, but it turned out that they would not be able to return until they completely conquered the West. He said that he would put an end to this. The princes asked what he wanted to say that he was trying to distinguish himself in this war. Zine said that, as they said, he has a bride in the estate, and he did not think that he would leave her alone for so long. He wants to return and marry her. After that, he decided to ask again if the complete elimination of monsters is an obstacle to conquering the West, a sufficient reason for the departure of their troops. He was answered that yes. 2 days later at noon, the monsters will split into 2 packs and disperse through the canyon. So each of the princes will be able to go in one direction to hold back the onslaught, and it is clear that the one who kills the most monsters will get more glory. A protracted war does not contribute to a favorable reign, and who knows how long the emperor's patience will last. It is important to prove yourself as a prince, but it is important not to forget that the result speaks for itself, and this is the only opportunity he can offer. He emphasized that everything they will see today cannot be spread, and they left. A fierce battle began, but Cassin still reached the stone and called for help. The Saleya family had other plans. She also realized that the family has many relatives. Having solved her problems with preparation for the debut, she decided that it is time to write a letter to Zane, although she does not know what to say to him. But first, it is worth writing that she has a lot of work lately, which is why she did not write and inform about the debut.